All right, live Q&A. Let's jump right into it. A gloomy day here in Toronto. But that being said, last year on this day, we legit got a foot of snow. I remember I was shoveling snow for a listing. We're about to get photos done. So don't forget that. We're still good with the weather. Anyway, first question, should you upgrade the rental or consider buying? This is actually a great question. Had this call come in the other day where someone was looking to go from a reasonably priced one bedroom rental and get something bigger, something nicer, go from, for example, a one bedroom to a two bedroom, and the cost was significantly more. We're talking about $1,000 more per month on that given rental. So I thought it was an interesting conversation, and I feel like it's a conversation that is coming up more and more, especially if somebody's been in a one bedroom condo for the last couple of years and maybe they got a really good price in 2020 and 2021, and now they're looking to upsize that property. If they're looking for the same condo, so for example, if you're going from a one bedroom in one building that you rented 2 to 3 years ago, and now you're going to a one bedroom in another building, you're probably looking at a difference of like $500-$600 a month. And if you're going from a one bedroom to a two bedroom, you're looking at about $1,000 plus a month. I think the question becomes, what are you looking for when it comes to your next play? And if you've rented a property for a few years and maybe you've been considering getting into the purchase or getting into a purchase into the buying market, what is the cost difference between buying something and upgrading your rental by $1,000 or $1,200 a month? And also something to factor in is, will you be able to save if your end goal is to ultimately buy something? What will that look like, that extra $1,000 a month from a savings perspective? Two things to consider is, yes, the cost savings. Would you be okay living where you're at for a little bit longer and not making that jump if it means being able to save more for that down payment of a property? Or do you really just want more space and you're not looking to purchase for a couple of years? Maybe you had a nice increase in salary or whatever it may be. Two things to factor in. That being said, one of the questions from last week was, is it a good time to buy? And the reality is it's a good time to buy whenever it's a good time for you to buy it. No one can answer that question. The time is right whenever the time is right for you. And that's the only answer. So in the market right now, what we can say is that there are a lot more condos on the market that have been sitting and not moving. And there's a pretty good amount of properties. If you are looking for that entry level price point to get into the city of Toronto, there's a pretty good amount of properties at that or under that $600,000 a month mark, or sorry, $600,000 purchase price mark, not per month, of course. And that's a big difference of where things were even a year and a half ago. So it's definitely a case by case basis, but if you are in that predicament of looking to upgrade your place or making the jump from a one bedroom to a two bedroom, and you crunch the numbers on what your next play is or what your ultimate goal is, it's really important to have that budget in mind and think about what your next goal is, not just what your current situation is and where you want to be as well. So that's a pretty long answer, but it really depends. Depends on your current situation. What amenities are important in a condo? I've had this one before. I always say I think amenities are very case by case basis. So, for example, if you don't, like for me, I don't swim, so a pool might not be my best amenity to have in a condo building, and they do tend to run fairly expensively. If you do have a pool in your building, it's indoor pool, and you're not just going out there to lounge. Maybe that's not an expense that you want to incur if it brings the condo fees up a little extra. That being said, maybe a cool gym is important to many people, because if you have a really good gym in your building, you might not need to pay the extra to go to other gyms in other buildings or like Good Life or whatever it may be. That could be a big factor. So when you are looking to purchase something or even rent something, it's important to factor in what amenities are there and which ones would you actually use. I can't stress this enough. Like, which amenities would you actually consider using? Super important to factor in. And then when you're looking at different options, check what those amenities are within the building so that at least you know what exactly you're going to want to use when it comes time to renting or buying. Loft versus regular condo. I mean, I guess if this question is just for me in particular, for me, I always love lofts. I always have. I love the aspect of them, the exposed brick, the beams, the columns. I love all that aspect of it. They're generally higher ceilings. There are trade-offs. You might not always get a balcony, especially in the loft conversions. The original parts of the, like if it's, for example, a warehouse, might not have had balconies at the time. The newer parts of the building may have balconies. So definitely really depends on that factor. They are sometimes noisier than other buildings, but that's again subjective. And they might not all have the greatest of amenities because maybe the building itself might not be that big and might not have had that many places to put the amenities. But that being said, there's some pretty amazing loft buildings in the city of Toronto. There's actually a really good amount of loft units on the market right now currently at prices that I haven't really seen in a while when it comes to loft style units. So for me, I love the loft aspect. If it's for you and you're considering purchasing either a loft or a condo, totally your choice. Generally, it depends on your lifestyle, your location. Lofts aren't always readily available in the most prime locations. I mean, there are some in prime locations, but they tend to run a little more expensive than general condo buildings in those areas. And I know it's a general answer, but it's definitely a case by case basis. But if you ask me, I mean, I love the uniqueness of it too, and I find that anytime you can get something that's a little bit more unique, might have a little better resale value in the future. Also something to consider. So that's your live Q&A. Hope you enjoyed it. Keep sending in your questions. I love firing these off every Friday, and we'll keep it going.